space. At this time, I want to say thank you to all persons who have been working behind the scenes to facilitate this transition. A significant part of this transition is the preparation of teachers through training on the selected platform, Microsoft Teams. Last week, we embarked on an initial exposure process phase. Some of this time were exposed. I want to say thank you, sensitization, to all persons who have been working behind the scenes to facilitate this transition. At this time, a significant part of this transition is the preparation of teachers through training working behind the selected platform to facilitate Microsoft transitions. A significant part of this transition on an initial exposure of teachers. Some of this time were exposed on a selected platform, Microsoft Teams. Last week, we embarked on an initial exposure process phase. Some of this time were exposed. I want to say thank you, sensitization, all persons who have been working behind the scenes to facilitate this transition. At this time, a significant part of this transition the platform. This activity will highlight the key skills needed for basic class instruction. It will provide the foundation from which we all will build. In fact, by the end of training, all teachers will be able to demonstrate the skills depicted in this morning's webinar. This week's sessions will be ably led by Mr. Kendall Cable, an expert in Microsoft Teams who has led other training institutions in the use of Microsoft Teams for teaching and learning with great success. Importantly, the webinar and subsequent training is a collaborative undertaking. As such, Mr. Christopher Herbert, Director of EMIS, and the EMIS team are working to ensure all technical needs are met for this undertaking. For example, establishing and testing of emails and creating teams of teachers. Mr. John Williams, Education Officer on Nevis, Mr. J.C. Somersall, Deputy Principal of Keon High School, will be co-facilitators for the training. Unfortunately, it will not be possible to answer questions during or after the webinar, as there are more than 900 persons on the webinar this morning. But please record any questions that you have so that they can be addressed in your small breakout group sessions with the facilitator. These sessions will be held during the course of this week. Should the chat feature be enabled on the webinar, questions will be noted and followed up in the breakout sessions. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented a very, very good opportunity for us in education. As we look forward to our enhanced curriculum and we continue to equip our teachers to be able to differentiate and to integrate the ICTs, indeed, this training is aligned with the mandates of our Education Sector Plan 2017-2021 and not solely part of the COVID-19 response. In transitioning to virtual education, the startup and initial interactions are the most challenging. The advantage of teaching online is that resources are available at your fingertips. We have ease of access to videos, links, and other activities. We can create our own repository of resources that can be accessed anytime. We have evaluated the entire situation, and we want to assure you that measures that have been put in place will support our teachers and students for years to come. Once again, we thank you for your patience as we embark on this massive undertaking. We cannot do this without you, at all. We will work together and we will succeed together. On behalf of my colleagues at the Ministry of Education in St. Kitts and Nevis, I declare this webinar and subsequent training open. Thank you, and do have a wonderful day.
Imagine if you could empower the students of today to create the world of tomorrow. Harness the power of technology to bring what once seemed impossible into reach.
I believe all children want to learn. It's just a matter of the adults trying to find an avenue or a vehicle to get them to that place.
Technology is transforming the classroom, and it's changing the way we teach, learn, connect.
Hello.
Imagine if the most important parts of your school were connected. Students, teachers, and classrooms, empowering everyone to create, to collaborate, to achieve more. From meeting the diverse needs of all students to improving graduation rates and efficiently managing your schools.
We had a graduation rate of 55%, which is shameful. And through this tracking and relentless use of data, I announced last month that it's at 82.6%. That is remarkable.
Introducing Microsoft 365 Education, designed to empower educators and students to unlock their creativity, to easily connect and work together in and out of the classroom, to make it easier to deploy and manage affordable classroom devices, and to provide always-on security to help keep your school's data safe. Simple changes can ignite transformation. You know what works, so let us help you build on it. This is Microsoft 365 Education. Together, we can embrace what's next.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this live webinar, a beginner's guide to teaching online on the St. Kitts and Nevis Ministry of Education's new online teaching platform. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Kendall Cable, and I'll be the lead instructor on this journey towards getting you ready to begin teaching online. Just a little background about me. I'm from St. Kitts, born and raised, and I've been in the information technology sector for over 20 years, starting at McPenny's Computing back in the mid-90s. Since then, I've been an IT consultant designing and developing enterprise systems in New York and Florida. In 2010, I returned to St. Kitts, shortly after which I started managing an IT department. And I've been driving change in support of higher education ever since. So, as you can imagine, this is a real honor to be a small part of your journey towards bringing the Federation and education another step closer to the future. So, at this point, let's take a sneak peek at what your day could look like when you get into online teaching. To that end, I'm going to switch roles now from Kendall Cable, lead instructor, to Kendall Cable, homeroom and geography teacher, and you'll follow me through part of my school day. Ready? Let's get started. Well, first off, I must say, the best part of teaching online has got to be the drive into work. No buses, no traffic, and no parents waiting for me at the gate. But enough of that. It's 7:45 on Monday morning, and I've been teaching online for about a week now. So I like to get in early before class time, just to make sure that I can log in and get set up in time for class. Okay, So now I'm going to share my screen and let you look over my shoulder as I start my day. So this is how I start my day, by clicking on the Microsoft Teams icon. I chose to install Teams because it just makes it that much easier to get in. When you start, you're going to start at the Teams tab. Here you can see all of the classes and groups that you're a part of. So we're going to go into my homeroom by clicking on the homeroom tab. Okay, I know, as soon as you get to this page, it can be a little overwhelming, but I promise it's really easy. Let's go ahead and look at it. Don't think of this as getting into your class. Think of this as the bulletin board pinned on the wall right outside your door. This is where all of the notices, announcements, assignments are posted for students to see when they come into the room. So, it goes in reverse chronological order, meaning the most recent post starts at the bottom, and then the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that, etc., all the way up to the beginning of the class. One of the great things about Teams is that whenever you come into your team room, you always start at the bulletin board. Okay? And it always brings you down to the latest post, so you don't have to do endless amounts of scrolling. See, now that we've explained it, you can see how it's not so challenging after all. The bottom post is the most recent, and as you can see, this is where I set up my class. Here's an assignment I posted on the 25th. Here's a message from a student, and if you scroll up, you can see where student John Williams, and if you scroll up, you can see where we were talking. There you go. So, while we're here, let's take a quick look at how I've scheduled my homeroom class. If you notice, I didn't schedule my class for 8 o'clock, which is when class starts for us. I started it at 7:30, so that students who come in early can have a place to congregate and chat and keep each other online and busy until I get there. Parents also like this feature, especially with young children, because it allows them to set you in front of the computer, put them right into the classroom, and then go and get themselves sorted for their work. So to get into a class, it's as simple as clicking on the homeroom class. Now, for me, I'm going to see the calendar appointment where I can make changes to the class because I'm the one who set it. However, students and myself will just click join class to come in. Now, let's take a look at this space. This is just outside the classroom door. This is where you can make sure your camera is on or off, depending on how you want it set. You can blur your background if you're choosing to put your camera on. This is where you know whether your microphone is on or off, on or off. See, when it's off, it's just an outline with a stroke through it, and in here is empty and dark. And when it's on, in here is full and lit up, and this is in full color. On, off, on, off, on, off, off. Okay, well, you get the message. But let's go ahead and leave this off since I'm talking to you right now. Once your settings are set and you're ready to go in and face your day, you can go ahead and hit the Join Now button. It'll say connecting, and at this point, like magic, we're inside the class. Now, it tells you right away that your microphone is muted so that you're not here talking away thinking that everybody's hearing you. You'll also see the KC, which means that I am the only one in the class right now. That's my initials, Kendall Cable. And as more people join, you'll see the KC get a little smaller, and the other initials, etc. And if someone was sharing their screen, you would see their picture show up as well. So, let's see when we get in. Now, this little bar right here is a very convenient feature. It tells you a few things. Number one, this is where you can turn your camera on or off. Number 2, this is where you can mute yourself or unmute yourself. This is where you can share screen. We'll get into that a little later. This one gives you some more options. I'll let you look into those on your own. This is where you can see conversations in the room. And finally, this is where you can see who's in the room, your students. This is very useful for taking attendance. And last but not least, the red phone receiver hang up is basically how you leave the room when you're ready to go. The one that I use when I come in the morning, first and foremost, is the show participants. Now, one thing I love about Teams is that because it's tied to your classroom, you and all of your students are already listed in the meeting room. So you don't have to wonder who's here, who's not there. They're all listed right here. Under this first tab, currently in the meeting, everybody who's in the room will show up right here. Under the other tabs, it will tell you exactly who's in your class, but not yet in the room. Now, let's take a little look at some of these little dots that you'll notice by each name. They're not decoration. The red, which says in a call, shows you that I'm currently occupied. Anyone who needed to reach out to me can see that I'm either in a meeting or on the phone because my icon turned red. This means that this particular student is still logged into Teams but hasn't touched the keyboard in quite a while. This is really useful when you're managing your classroom to tell if a student is really at their keyboard at home or maybe off playing games somewhere. The little X in the circle says offline, which just tells you that this student is actually not logged into Teams at all. And the green circle here tells you that this student, Chris, is on Teams, but since they're down at the invite others from conversation tab and not in the currently in a meeting tab, you know that he's not in the room. Okay. Now, okay, look at that. A test student just joined the room. And you can tell that because they just moved from down here to currently in the meeting and the number is changed to 2. So, and if you look here, you also see TS, which tells you that they're now in the room. You can mouse over any acronym to see who the student is. Their status, see, they're now in a call, right? Because they're in the classroom with me. And you can even send a direct message only to that student from right here. Okay, so let's try saying hello to Tess. Hi Tess, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Mr. Cadence.
Okay, Tess. I'm gonna go ahead and mute you. So to avoid feedback, okay, and that's a good example of just how to mute a student. If I needed to mute one student, I can come right here and I can say mute. I can also pin that student to the top, which means that their name will always show up where I can see it. I can remove them from the class. Okay, so those are just some of the basic controls that you can do with a student. I'm glad that student came in when they did, because it allowed us to see exactly what happens with the meeting room when a student comes into the room. As you can imagine, as these students log in and come into the room, they'll move up here and their status will change to red. Okay, let's close that out. Another useful feature is the chat feature. If it's loud where you are at the moment, or you don't feel like talking and you're staying muted, or you don't have a headset, you can also chat directly to your students from this chat window. So let's go ahead and send a message to the group. Hello, Test. How are you? Right? And then see, it tells you when it's sending, and then it tells you the time that the message went through, which is particularly useful if you have a slower internet connection, because it allows you to know exactly when the student should have received your message. Okay, and there we go. So we've got a response from Tess. And as you see, the little pop-up whenever you get a message. So if you're not paying attention and someone in the class sends you a message, you'll see it pop up right here, and it tells you who sent it, from which room. And you can just give Tess a thumbs up, just to let them know that you're good, and they'll receive the message as well. Okay, one of the things I like, it pops up down here in the right hand corner, out of the way. Very convenient for not interfering with the class and assembly. Okay, now usually I don't take attendance at this point, obviously, because it's not quite 8 o'clock yet. But even at assembly time, I'll typically wait until further into the assembly, just to give students who may be having internet problems, or had to restart their computer, or woke up a little late, give them a little chance to enter the room. But again, that's more personal style. It's 8 a.m. and all of the students who are going to join are here. So let's go ahead and start assembly. This is a great time to show you a feature of Teams where, even though I'm in my classroom, I can click on Teams over here and I can get back to my bulletin board. Right? Still nothing posted. And as you can see, this is what students will see arrive. The homeroom classes started, and they can just click join. They can see that test student, and they can see that we've been in the room for about 10.5 minutes at this point today. So all from the convenience of the bulletin board. There's a lot that a student can get. So I came here because what I do is I use the built-in class notebook feature. What this is, just like it sounds, it's basically just a place to organize your information. It has lots of features, most of which I haven't explored yet, but one of the great things that I love about it is that I can keep content in one place. So, under the content library, which is where teachers can keep content that students can't interfere with, they can view it, but they can't change it. And then I have a tab I keep for assembly. And the reason why I thought this is good, because A, it allows students to visually see what's going on their screen and follow along. Students that come late can pick right up where we are, and it also means I can set a consistent format and keep it going. So once I've got that in, I just make it bigger by clicking the bigger tab here, and what that does is it takes my notebook and make it the primary thing. You can make it back smaller so you can see all your other meeting tabs and everything else, classroom tabs. But again, I like to make it big, and so I can see what's going on. Students can either click on the classroom notebook and come to this page for assembly on their own, but typically what I do is that I will share my screen. And then when you share your screen, you'll see all the windows that you have open, and you can share any one of them. In my case, I'm just going to go ahead and share my classroom screen. As you can see, this big red box that comes around the border is a reminder to me that my screen is being shared, and so that I shouldn't show anything on the screen that I don't want to. Now, because I shared application and not the whole window, even if I were to pull another file or something personal onto this screen, no one else can see it. It has to be something that's in the team does that for you automatically. So if you're in the middle of sharing your screen and teaching a class, other people can know not to bother you by trying to call you or send you messages. And if you look at my little icon on the top, you see it's the same red dot that says I'm in a meeting, but now it's got a little white line through it. That tells people that I'm in the middle of presenting or sharing my screen. Good. So now that I'm sharing my screen, I can go back to my Teams classroom. I can go to my class, and it takes me right back to my class notebook. All right, it will just take a little bit of time to load because of the internet. I can go into my tabs. I can go into my content library, again, the space where teacher-only information can go. Not teacher-only, and students can access it, however, they cannot edit it or delete it or make changes. Okay, and then into my tab, and then into my class assembly. And here it is. And since my screen is being shared, all of my students can now see exactly what I see in my Teams window. So this is a good time for assembly, I find, to go ahead and unmute my mic, which I can do from the convenience of my class window right here. If students were speaking, obviously I can hear them, and if they were sharing their screen or sending me a message, I would be able to see the pop-ups as they come on my big window. As it says down here, 3 new notifications. Perfect. So, all right, class, it's time for morning prayer. I need everybody to stand up, clasp your hands, and close their eyes. Can I see them? Not really, because I don't ask them to share their cameras. But they all know that the other students are at home, wherever they are, standing up and doing the exact same thing. And that helps to build a sense of community that students get in school. Once we've gotten through the Lord's Prayer, then we'll go ahead and sing Our Land of Beauty. Now, based on your class age, you may or may not want to bring it up. So here I've brought in this video of Our Land of Beauty from YouTube, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit play. And from right inside of my notebook, I'm going to go ahead and pause that because it's not polite to talk during the national anthem. So at this point, the kids are normally asked to stand at full attention, no talking, head straight, and sing along. And as I said, the words were right there for them. So in the event that they are younger or don't know the words, new to the country, it's a great opportunity for them to learn as well. And that's what you'll find as you teach online. There are going to be lots of opportunities to pull in technology that you may not have been able to do in the class. Oh, and we'll see some of that when I get to geography. But from now at this point, after we've gone through prayers and sang the national anthem and attendance, I typically will do attendance at this point. And for attendance, it's pretty simple. I just go back to my class. I go back to the show participants. Yes, you remember that. And then I can see all of the people who are currently in the meeting. And we can go ahead and take the attendance. Good. It's a good time while we're here to just see if anyone sent me any new messages. Now, here's a good example of one of the nice features teams thought about as well. See how this is in the way? I can just grab it and drag it anywhere I want to. Right? Bear in mind, see the red bar? I'm still sharing my screen. So as I go through and call attendance, students can see what I'm seeing, and it allows them to unmute and say present if they're present. Or I can just do it myself. Now, here's a good time to talk about when you stop sharing. As you can see, it shows you a square, which means your monitor you're sharing, with an X in it. So when I click on that, the red bar has gone away, and now students can no longer see what I see. They can still hear me because I'm not muted, but they cannot see me share my screen. At this point, their screen would go back to showing the K and the C, just like I can see the T and the S, because test students is the only one in the class at the moment. Okay. So this is a great time for a break. Now that assembly is open, and before we start the geography session, it's usually a good idea to give them something to wake them up. And so you can find something fun on YouTube, like this. Okay, class, we're about to move into the geography session. I want you guys to all get up and dance for a little while.
Break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, try it again. Break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, try it again.
So, it really makes you want to stay at class, doesn't it? Not get distracted. It actually serves a pretty good purpose. Number one, get them up, get them moving, but also it gives me a chance to get set up for the next class while they are entertained. So, enough of that. Now let's go ahead into geography class. In my particular case, we do all the classes from one room. Since I teach homeroom and geography, it just allows them to stay in one place as opposed to having to log out of this room and log into another one. But if they do have to move rooms in your class, in your school, that's actually as easy as clicking Teams, finding the next class, and clicking in, or going into their calendar, look for their scheduled class, and click in there. So, not hard at all. It's not even as difficult as walking down the hall. So at this point, our students have gotten a little exercise in between, been engaged. That could have easily have been a shared whiteboard where they have to play a game of tic-tac-toe or some kind of Teams game online. There are lots of things you can find to make it fun and entertaining in between class. But again, I like to find little things for them to look at or do that brings, stimulates their brain and makes them get up out the chair and walk around. Okay, so let's go back into the class, and again, right at that bulletin board, and normally you'd see my scheduled geography class show up here. Here it is. And then once it comes up, we will simply join the class. And join. I'm sure by now you know exactly where to find that. Just like when you join any class, and here it is, tells you you're going into geography class, you end up right in the front, right before the door, where you get to fix yourself, make sure that everything is set the way you want it, and then you join. Before I join, let me show you another interesting thing. Because I did not leave the homeroom class, it does put your status on hold, almost like call waiting. So I can have this class running and be in my geography class and swap back and forth if I needed to. Or I can stay from right here and hang up, which basically means that I'm no longer in that class and I'm now in geography class, which is where I need to be. So let me go ahead and join. And again, we're in our room. Very consistent, very easy. I'm gonna go ahead before I start to think. And here's a good thing you can see right here. It says your network is currently causing poor quality, call quality. So basically it's just telling me my network is having a little bit of lag, which is something you'll experience from time to time. And see, it went away on its own. And our internet work will do that, especially as the internet service providers are working to increase bandwidth at this time. Occasionally it'll take a little dip, or if someone in your house has just started streaming the latest episode on Netflix, for instance. Well, we're all at home, it's gonna happen. So let's go ahead back to Teams as usual. And then, I store everything in my class notebook because it makes it easy for me to find when class time comes, instead of juggling around for files. And we're going to do geography. But before we start geography, I gave my students an assignment last week. So let us see how we can manage assignments. Well, we go back to the class in which I gave the assignment to. And from here, you can conveniently see all the assignments that I have issued and when they're due. So my geography maps homework is due tomorrow. The Caribbean Islands is due today, at midnight. And if I have any new assignments, then they can be brought in here. And look over here. At the glimpse of an eye, I can see if any of my assignments were turned in. 1 out of my 6 students turned in my Caribbean Islands homework already, and 2 out of my 5 students turned in my geography maps. And of course there are less students here because one of those students finished it in class early. So let's go ahead and look at geography maps. Okay. To grade, there are 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Already graded, there's the one from that student who did it already. Okay, so again, just convenient tabs to make everything easy. Oh, but it gets better. This is one of my most fun parts that I love Teams for. So you can see here at the glimpse again, this is the one student who turned in their homework. JC viewed it, but didn't actually turn in anything. And test student 1 and 2 didn't turn in the homework at all. So let's go here, and up here on this side we can actually cycle through all of our students without having to click through anything else. So we have Chris Herbert, no work attached. John Williams submitted a homework on maps document. Okay, and this right here. And as you see, Word, which integrates perfectly with Teams, all Microsoft products, has just shown up right here, right into the browser. And this is something I marked already, but as you can see conveniently, I was able to highlight, mark in red, all on the same assignment and send it back to the student. Let's try another student. Now, if you want to select a particular student, you can go down the scroll list, or you can even type their name right here. And as you start to type, you'll see the filter get smaller until it reaches to the one student. Good. Okay, so yes, you can cycle through different students. And one of my favorite features is this little view history button, little sneak peek for teachers, right? I can see the date and time when I turned it in. I can see the date and time when I assigned it, the date and time the student viewed it, and when they actually turned in the work. So, when they like to say, oh, I didn't see it, or I turned it in on time, well, now it's all tracked right here. So if I just wanted to give overall feedback to the student about this assignment, I can do that from right here, and I can hit return. So for instance, this is a good one, and you'll notice that I have, and if you don't have Word on your computer, that's fine. You can edit it right in the web. Okay, so while that's processing, let's go ahead and look at some of our options here. So the student brought in their work and it's attached, and I can see the attachment right here. I can put in some feedback to the student right here, and then I can return it back to the student. And this one has already been returned to the student. When I've done that, I can simply close. So now that we've seen that some of the students did not do their geography assignment, let's go back to the class and talk to them a little bit. Now, at this point, once I'm in assembly and I'm in a live class, I just use my microphone because I find it so much easier to communicate than typing. I'm not from the generation of the texters. Anyway, so class, I realize that some of you viewed the homework and a few of you did it, but no one seemed to understand or have gotten the question right. Let's take a look at it together. So I'm going to share my geography class meeting. Good. And then I'm going to go into Teams. I'm going to go to my Assignments tab. I'm going to go to the assignment. Get a student's view of the assignment. Here we go. So this is what I sent to you. Maps, identifying symbols on a map. Told you it was due tomorrow. And here are the instructions. Using your atlas, identify the sections of the map of St. Kitts. For those that don't have a copy of the atlas, you can use the image below. And I click here, and you can see the image pops up on the web page. And this is the image that we're talking about. For those of you who I'm sharing with, I don't think you'll be able to see it. Okay, so that's the picture, and the question is, yes. So the question is, using your atlas, identify the sections on the map. What is the yellow and brown section on the map represent? So most of you didn't seem to know what that was. Well, let's see if I can use any kind of online tool to help you identify what that was. So let's bring in Google Earth. If none of you have seen Google Earth before, it's a 3D representation of the entire planet. You can actually use it to even maybe have a quiz, or again, one of those little assignments to keep, students entertained. But what's really cool about it is not just because you can scroll it around, which is pretty fun. I recommend you try it. I can come right over here and I can search for St. Kitts. And Bastille St. Kitts is right here. And let's go ahead and click it. And you'll see it zooms right into Bastille. And there we go. So class, now that you can see a bird's eye view, let's go ahead and take a look at our map and an actual map of St. Kitts. And tell me if you can identify what the light and brown areas are. Correct. Mountains. And this is just a great example of how you can use tools like Google Maps, which are already created for you and free. And what about the area down here? That's right. Mountains. And these are actual satellite images that are stitched together for the purpose of this program with crowd covers. But you can use this tool for lots of things, from population density, see all the houses, to identifying parishes in St. Kitts and Nevis. All right. And as it clears, there you go. I wonder if I could find my house from here. Very good. To even items on the entire Caribbean region. From Guyana all the way up. All right. So I think this is a great place to break. As you got to see just a part of my day and some of the cool features that you can do with teaching online. Okay, so that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and finish teaching my class, teach the rest of my day, and then set up some assignments for tomorrow. Well, that's it for me. At this point, we've seen how to log in the morning from our Microsoft Teams account. We've seen that once you come into your Teams tab, you're able to see all of the classes that you're logged in, that you're a part of, and that by clicking on the box, we can get straight to the door by the bulletin board. We've looked at the pieces of the bulletin board, so now we know what it means and we won't get intimidated by it. We've seen how we can join our class, right? How to set our items before we enter, right? Making sure our camera is on or off, our background is set, and our microphone is set how we want it, whether muted or not muted. We've seen how to join the actual class. We've looked at the control bar for the classroom, where we can again see if we're having some lag on the internet, see how the time that we've been in the class, muting or unmuting our camera, muting or unmuting our microphone so the students can hear us talk, how to share documents and and screens, how to see the conversations in our room and talk to them, how to view our participation lists to see who's actually in our class, and of course, finally, how to leave. Along with that, we've also seen our assignments book. We've seen how all the assignments are grouped together in a convenient location by class. We've seen how once you get into the class, you can see all of the assignments. Right. What we've not seen, but is very easy to do, is how to create an assignment. Where you enter a title, some instructions for the student, where it's just like using any kind of Word or other document. You can type, it lets you do bullet points, numbering, you can put in a link to something online, you can of course type, and if something is really important, you can highlight, and the highlighter gives you the normal yellow, and you can do pen, red pens, different things. You have lots of options to play with here. If you have a PDF or another document you need to add to it, you can assign resources. All right, again, my favorite class notebook, where I can pull a page to attach. I can link to an external resource like Google Earth, and I can even go to OneDrive. I can make sure it's assigned to the class that I want. And when it's due, who I'd like to go to, whether it's one student or all the students, and the time that I'd like it to be due. Once I've done that, I hit the assign button, and voila. All of the students have gotten the assignment. And not just that. You see the little symbol just popped up? When I go to my class and I go to the bulletin board, any student that comes in will get a pop-up notification. They'll see it in the bulletin board for their class. When they go to assignments, and I go to the assignments for that class, they'll see it pop up there as well, when it's due and the name of it. As a teacher, I can also see how many people have submitted. Not surprising, I just sent it a few seconds ago. And I think with that, you should have everything you need to get started. That's what I use 90% of the time in the week that I've been teaching online. Since then, I've talked to other teachers who are teaching online, and we've shared lots of ideas. That's how I found out about Google Earth. And we've just been having a great time. So, I hope this presentation has shown you just how easy it is for you to teach online, and also to show you that you don't have to be perfect. It's new to everybody, and if you just get the basics down, get in, it's very repetitive, so as you do it, you'll get used to it and you'll get comfortable. And with this and the following breakout sessions, where you'll get to see this all in a much smaller group of people, we'll get to see it from the student perspective, and then you'll get promoted to a teacher for that room, where you'll get to play with it, try out everything we've seen here, try out things you've seen online or people have told you about, and have fun. Another great thing is that these rooms that you'll be assigned to for your breakout sessions are going to be yours to use. Do everything you want. They'll be there right up until you start teaching for real, and then they will go away. So you can't do anything to hurt your actual class. The only thing we ask is that you don't remove other teachers who are also in the room and learning as well. Okay, with that, check your email, look for something from the Ministry of Education. It should have in your time for your breakout session. It'll be over the course of this week, and you have a login to get to it. I hope you've had as much fun as I've had in this live webinar. I hope you see just how easy it is to use the St. Kitts and Nevis Ministry of Education's online platform for teaching, and I hope you see that you don't have to be perfect and that it's not intimidating. After your breakout sessions, I'm sure you'll be ready to teach on day one. Once again, I'm your host, Kendall Cable, and I'll see you in the breakout sessions.